Hello, and welcome to Co-ople Mode, a couple's opinion on gaming. I'm Matt.
And I'm Rose.
Welcome back. How you been doing? We're moving on to the next game from Brutal Legend. Do you still have the soundtrack in your head?
Some of it. I'm actually pretty excited to move on to the next thing. I liked Brutal Legend a lot, but it didn't quite get the hooks into me, and I'm not sure why. As much as I love that world, the vibe, I'm kind of indifferent to playing it again. I kind of want to, but I'm not. It's not like some of these others that you've shown me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes it doesn't matter how much a game, I should like this. And I don't hate it, but it didn't grab you,
I think it's the overall gameplay. I'm not as addicted to that type of game, the way that it goes down.
I suppose that makes sense.
But I did enjoy a lot. I probably, if I had time, I would mess with it more. But yeah, I've got quite a few games on my list now that I'm trying to get back to.
I know.
And I don't get the opportunity.
You understand that feeling so much better now. Yeah. You've made fun of me about it in the past a little bit.
I didn't get it.
And now that you understand, there's just, our bond is deeper than ever before.
What do you mean? There's 5 games you play and you just play those over and over.
You just play your 5 favorite games. Yeah. That's it. Do you have any idea? Ideas?
I'm kind of nervous. I've seen you play a lot of different things in this past week.
Yeah.
And it's been all over the place. And
really has.
You loaded up Elden Ring 2 or 3 times, and I'm just sweating in the corner. I'm like, please, God, no. I'm afraid. It's just... there's a few things that I'm I know you're going to have more things on your list that I'm going to love, but I know for a fact that there's a few things on that list that I'm waiting for the shoe to drop.
You're waiting for the jump scare?
Yeah. And it's scary. It's scary to be me.
Oh, man. That's actually really funny now that I didn't even think about that.
I get excited and then terrified.
Okay. So the game for this episode, it's something a little different. I thought I'd throw something different in from what we've been playing.
Okay.
It is Far Cry 3.
Okay, I've heard of these games. I don't know anything about them. I just know that people really love them.
Yeah, and especially the reason I'm starting with Far Cry 3 is this is the game that really set the tone for the games going forward. And
how many are there?
6 just released this last year. Oh, that's nothing. Final Fantasy is about to release 16.
Final Fantasy is a whole different monster, which I don't even want to address because, again, I don't want to make people hate me.
Yeah, it is comparing apples to oranges when it comes to games. So I'll just kind of get into talking about it. We won't tiptoe around it. Far Cry 3 is a first-person shooter adventure story. Taking place on the Rook Island is what the island is called, and you kind of go on this. I don't want to say as much adventure, but
a battle venture,
intense adventure. Let's put it that way. It was originally released in November of 2012 for PC, Xbox 360, and PS3. And there was a remaster of the single-player story that came out in June of 2018. They kind of package it with, if you bought the Far Cry 5 Season Pass, you got this as a bonus, just for free. You got Far Cry 3 remaster, which was kind of cool. It's the third of 6 in the mainline games. It is published by Ubisoft and developed by Ubisoft Montreal, which... Ubisoft kind of has a ton of different subsidiary companies, so Montreal is just one of their main game developer branches, essentially.
Sure.
You probably would recognize Ubisoft from games like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Just Dance, Prince of Persia, almost any Tom Clancy game, Watch Dogs, and Heroes of Might and Magic. They acquired
Heroes of Might and Magic, that's right. I knew that.
Yep. You probably, it's one of those things, you see that logo pop up and
You said Heroes and I saw it in my brain.
Yep.
Just Dance is the best odd duck in that list.
They
Prince
really,
of Persia.
They have a bunch of weird things in their repertoire sometimes. It's very interesting.
Kill everybody and the dance.
Yeah, right.
That's funny.
Assassinate people, hack the world, dance. When this game originally came out, it was sitting on Metacritic between 88 and 91.
That's really good.
I remember when this game came out, this was like one of the big games of the year.
Like I said, I've heard of this game so much, but I don't know like anything about it. But I know just from being alive in the world that everybody loved this game. Like it's all you heard about for a few years.
Exactly.
It was one of those games.
Though I do have to say the recent remaster that they did only got a 70 on Metacritic. That? I think it's just because...
how can a game have such a good score and then be remade and get such a lower score?
I think it's a little bit of fatigue from the Far Cry franchise. They developed this formula in this game, and it was so new and fresh when this game originally came out. And when the remaster came out, we've had 2 more games since then, and they added some of this formula into some of their other games. And I think there was a little bit of that fatigue. When people reviewed it, they said, like, hey, it's the story again, and that story is great, and like, but there isn't really a whole lot of new anything to it. They just kind of cleaned it up, made it look a little nicer.
Isn't that what a remake is?
A remaster. Remake, they completely changed the game. Remaster is like, we polish the stone and make it look better, which is, like I said, people think you're getting one or the other, or you think you should get somewhere in between. And here's the thing, it's a remaster. It's going to look better. It's going to play better on the new consoles, and I don't know why people get all upset about it. I don't think it should have dropped that much.
That's a big drop.
Yeah. All right. I think from my experience replaying this game, you know, since, oh my God, it's been a while since I've replayed this specific Far Cry, is that even though they did a lot of things new in this one that were really exciting and really new, they've polished it a little bit in newer entries, right? So they took some of the edges that you feel when you're playing the game, and when they remastered it, they didn't polish that part. They just kind of made the game look better, run better, right?
Okay.
I think that's why it kind of dropped down, because when you come back sometimes to play a game, no matter how exciting and how fresh it was that first time you played it, when you played newer iterations that have improved in some ways, it can kind of feel like a step back sometimes. That's the only reason.
I understand what you're saying. It just seems a little bit unfair, but at the same time, I understand that it would be really hard to separate that in your head. If you have a newer, better version that you have played, to go back to the old one, it's like, well, it's not as good as what they have done now.
Yeah.
I get that, but it seemed kind of weird that it was so high and it dropped so low. I mean, at the same time, don't you feel like you would have needed to kind of put your headspace back at that time to re-rate it?
I do think so.
That's a tricky question.
I don't want to come down on PlayStation, Sony game reviewers, because the only version
they seem cranky to me.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and I think I've mentioned this before. Metacritic, to actually have a score for a game, has to have at least 4 reviews from publications, online sources, magazines, whatever. So the PlayStation 4 was the only version that had enough reviews, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes they seem to be harsh on things a little bit.
Yeah.
More so. And
well, they're used to waiting like 7 years to get something, and then it's practically perfect. So
yeah, they get a lot of these big AAA mainline. That's Sony's whole business model, right? Yeah. So if it's not holding up, get out of here. But even with that, this game's success really helped elevate this franchise going forward. I remember playing the first 2 Far Cries. I did. And here's what I remember about the first 2 games. The second one was like in an African desert. Your guns could jam sometimes, which was very inopportune. And you had to worry about malaria from mosquitoes. And the world
doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, this one really made it like more open world compared to the linear gameplay of the first one for single player. Okay. And you could tackle things how you wanted, which was interesting. But the world itself was kind of bare, so it wasn't really fun to.
Because it's a desert.
Yeah, it wasn't fun to explore the world, right? The first one, when it came to Xbox, and I think a remake version came to 360, the game was all right. It wasn't like the controls were a little janky, but the funnest thing about that is in multiplayer, they allowed you to create multiplayer maps.
Oh, okay.
And this is what I remember playing with our buddies back in high school, right? Okay. I still have a vivid memory of a map that I made and how it was set up. And you could like you could terraform the earth to make like a big mountain. You could paint it whatever textures. You could have hang gliders and freaking boats and trucks. Like you just could make a huge map. That was the funnest part of that game to me. The story mode was like, meh. But this one I think is much better done. The world is much more interesting and random. Like there's things that'll happen to you. So I think it just, once they made this one, it's like they tried to recreate this in different locations with varying levels of success, I would say. So speaking about the level is when they were really trying to avoid creating distinct levels when they made this game. They didn't want it to feel like, okay, here's a mission. They wanted it to feel like an open world that you could tackle how you wanted. Okay. Did you want to be stealthy and like sneak in and backstab everyone? Or did you just want to go in there with a freaking AK and just mow down everybody? It's up to you, right? Okay. Be all Arnold Schwarzenegger driving in a truck while everything's exploding around you. Like that's So when they were making this, they had a new engine that they had just made that they utilized this algorithm to procedurally generate this island, which means like it made this island. It made sure that things didn't stay the same. There was changes. There was mountains. There was rivers, right? Okay. And so once they had this basic map, then they could edit things how they wanted, specifically in certain areas. So like they were able to create this big island and then tweak it how they wanted, which I thought was really interesting. Like it helps give it that randomness that the real world has, right? Yeah, like how you know, like the best way to do it is make it actually random, right? And they really tried to avoid repeating patterns. Like, I guess the joke is like in Skyrim, like if you mess with the Assassin's Guild, you just like constantly, the Black Hand will show up. Hey, you're going to die now. And like, we'll try to kill you. Like you'll get these repeat interactions with different characters. And they really wanted to try to avoid that. So they had like over like 250 different interactions, and the game will remember which ones you've experienced not reuse them until after enough time has passed.
Wow. And it's the little details like that really take a game up a level or two. Yeah. And that's so much extra work. Like if you really think about how much extra time and planning and figuring out how to make this happen and putting the work in to make it happen. Yeah. It's really going above and beyond in making a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think like mainline missions and even some side missions, like they'll have like close to a specific setup, right? This is where the enemies or how many enemies you have to fight in the type, to make sure the difficulty is at where you have. But like out in the world driving around, you'll run into a car full of bad guys, or maybe you'll escape into a woods and then you'll trying to go into a river and you run into an alligator. Like, like there's wild animals out there. Some of them are just going to run away from you, and some are going to be like, you're on my territory, bud. No. Chomp. You're going to run into the honey badger and he will wreck your shop. Like there's all this like interesting wildlife running around. They were quoted saying that Rook Island is considered to be the second most important character in this game, other than you. Huh. Which I thought was an interesting way to put it, because honestly, when you're playing a game, the world you're in is just as important as the character you play, right? I mean,
especially coming off of Brutal Legend, that's really what stood out the most in that game.
Yeah, that was the most important character, the world in that game. You can tell, right? And I thought, like, I saw that, I'm like, I'm glad I picked this game second after Brutal Legend.
Kind of tie in that way.
I thought that was an interesting way to kind of transition. The other thing that they did is a lot of time games that were coming out in this era had a morality system where...
Oh, yeah, sure.
You've
like,
seen...
Oblivion and stuff.
Yeah, Oblivion will do it. Skyrim. Let's see. The Star Wars KOTOR games, or like a lot of RPGs were like, hey, are you making a good choice? You're helping these people out. Being selfless, you become more good. Or are you going to screw them over to get riches or something? You become bad. Fable, that's really, yep. And they were like, you know what, honestly, like that's not really real life. There's a lot of more moral gray space in the world. And I always say this to people, like a lot of people like to view the world as black and white, but it's more like a black and white TV. It's just a bunch of shades of gray. And I've literally said that multiple times in my life to different people. So they really wanted to explore that kind of shades of gray, because what happens in this game is you're out on this awesome vacation with your brother and your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You get kidnapped by these pirates, right? That's how you start the game. You were kidnapped. Yeah, right? So you're trying to go on this adventure to free all your friends that have been captured, but you're still killing all these pirates, all these people. Like, this isn't what you were. So there's a moral gray space. You're trying to protect your friends that were wronged, but you are doing things that are wrong in the course of it. And they kind of explore that. And it's kind of interesting to see. It's something that I think you can see nowadays a little more often, but this was like a big selling point of this game, at the time it came out. Even the main villain, Voss, he's kind of a little crazy but charismatic at the same time. Really? Yeah, he's kind of, it's like he embraced the chaos of the world, right? That's kind of the vibe he gives off. And he was just such an interesting villain, I remember, especially the first time experiencing it.
Okay.
And coming back and playing again, and I don't know if it's just like what I've been exposed to since this game's come out, or like maybe people have done certain things better. I don't know if or maybe I just remember. Like, it didn't hit as hard as it did the first time I played.
Sure.
So I'm kind of interested to see what kind of vibe it gives off when you end up going into it. The only other thing that I kind of wanted to bring up, which I thought was fun, is they made a DLC for this game called Blood Dragon. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. They actually eventually made it a standalone DLC. You could just buy Blood Dragon and play it.
Okay.
And basically they took the game and the mechanics, they simplified some things, made it a little more streamlined. And it's like this 80s future synthwave vibe.
Really?
Yeah. There's like
this sounds cool.
A dragon that shoots lasers out of its eyes. You're shooting lasers. You're like Captain Rex, like Colt, like some ridiculous name, and you're running around, and it's just like it's such a vibe, and it's wild and it's crazy. And the only reason I bring that up is because I know in future Far Cry games they have like a DLC that's just wild. One of them, you go to Mars and you're fighting aliens. One of them that they always have like, okay, here's this game kind of rooted somewhat realistically in the real world, and then there's this like batshit crazy game they made just to have fun.
That sounds,
and that's why, it's so
refreshing.
Cool, right? It's just so 80s, like action. Like, this is so cool. Like, as like what would like a teenager think is the most badass thing you can do? Blood Dragon. and I just think that's kind of fun. I do believe I have the 360 version, but you're going to be playing the Xbox One Classic Edition because it'll run a little better.
Man, that was that long ago?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. 2012 was a while ago. Or I mean, to quote, it is set in a dystopian version of 2007 where the world is suffering the aftermath of nuclear war. It is an 80s VHS vision of the future where the player must get the girl, kill the bad guys, and save the world.
Very 80s movie.
But some people almost like that version better because like it was like a more compact adventure.
Sure.
Far Cry 3, like, I'm going to be honest, you're going to play this game. You're not going to finish this game.
I'm not getting anywhere.
No, but I just kind of want you to experience it and see how you feel about it.
Okay.
There's a lot of interesting things I remember. The first thing that comes to mind is you get a tattoo on your arm, tatau, they call it. And this is like your skill tree. So as you...
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so you level up as you, kill enemies, take over outposts, do missions, right? And then you get to pick one of 3 trees. It's the heron, the shark, or the spider. And depending on what you pick is new skills. Like, hey, you have more health. Hey, you can do an insta-kill if you jump over an enemy and click the melee button. You get more experience if you do this. Or, hey, you can get more skins when you kill an animal or gather more plants easier. Stuff like that. And as you upgrade that skill tree, you'll see in your in-game character, the tatau will fill up your arm.
I like that.
And you can actually, cool, in the skill tree, look at the map of how much of the tattoo you unlock. And I thought that was just such a cool feature.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is what's giving you your power, right? Your ability, and you could have a visual representation of that in-game. And I just thought that was so cool back in the day.
That is a neat idea.
The other thing is, like, there's so much wildlife in this game. There's birds, alligators, there's bison, I believe, jungle cats. oh my gosh, I can't even remember all the animals. There's a lot of animals in
Sure.
this game, deer. But they're not just for looks. If you hunt these animals, you can skin them, and you can use these skins to upgrade yourself. One of the basic ones is make a bigger wallet, like classic Legend of Zelda. Get a bigger wallet so you can hold more money, right? One is like just upgrading your inventory space so you can carry more things like skins, herbal things. Or the other one is more weapon holsters. Because at first you only have one. You can only have one weapon gun on you. But as you find these animals, kill them, you can have up to 4 different weapons on you at any one time. Hold more grenades, hold more ammo. Like, there's all these incentives to like, hey, you don't need to go do that main mission. There's that animal you need right over there. Look on the map. You can see they're in this area. Go check that out. Or find the plants. They're very clear on the mini-map whenever you're near a certain colored plant you can use to make essentially health potions or potions that let you see wild animals at a distance easier. There's so many little incentive things to like explore, check things out, find things, and this game had me so hooked. I remember so vividly that I think this was the only game I played until I beat it because I had to max it out. I had to get everything, you know?
You're that kind of guy, yeah.
And it is kind of fun to watch the story and you see the shift in Jason's character as time goes on. And you don't notice it at first because you're just playing a game, you're having fun. But the characters you save and your friends notice. So they're still stuck like they were at the beginning of the game. Like, they're just regular people who were kidnapped and a victim. And you're becoming this almost mercenary of death, right?
Right.
And you can't stop.
It sounds like everything right that Tomb Raider got wrong to me so far. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
It's like the premise, but done right and done well.
I think it's fun that you can try to approach things a different way, like be stealthy, set up traps if you want. Like, one of the first things you learn how to do is throw a rock, lure people away so you can get somewhere.
Like Hitman.
Yeah, but I always forget that I can do that because I'm like, I got a gun. I'm like, oh, wait, I should learn how to throw rocks so I can set it up and like sneak in. There's a lot of fun to be had in this game, and it does bring up that enjoyment of just exploring and finding new areas and little hints and secrets. And I have a lot of fondness for this game because it is one of those few games that I was like, I have to beat this. I have to experience this fully. I played Far Cry 4 and 5. Didn't beat them. I got pretty far in both of them. Wow. But to me, it was like, it's more Far Cry 3. Like, Far Cry 3, I think, is what holds that special feeling to me. Even though they might have improved some systems in the future ones. I hear good things about Far Cry 6, but it's like, I think there's a little fatigue with the system, and I'm not sure if they changed things enough to make it feel fresh again or not. Some people just want more of the same thing, better of the same thing. That's why COD keeps coming out every year, you know?
Yeah.
And that's okay. If that's what you want, I like to mix it up and try a lot of different things. That's me personally. You have
not tried Far Cry 6 yet, then?
I have not. It just came out this year, and like, it was one of those things that's like, okay, I'm kind of interested, and I think maybe when it goes on sale sometime I might get it.
Not on the top of your list.
Yeah, because I have Far Cry 5. Like, Far Cry 5, I think, is on Game Pass. I've got it on sale for like $5 on Epic Games at one point. Wow. You know, so I just didn't have the drive to like go and do it. Sure. Plus, there's just always other games that I'm really interested in trying. Like, you're always trying to fit that in. It gets tough, right? But I'm excited to see you try it.
I'm either gonna love it or hate it. I can do.
And I'm gonna say this.
I feel like it's not gonna have a lot of room for any in between.
Yeah,
it's either gonna all hit so right, or it's all gonna be so wrong.
Yeah, I knew that. I actually had that thought when I was picking this game. She's either going to be like, this is kind of cool, or, oh my God, I might play this. But I do want to say, you can choose your difficulty setting, and I was playing on normal. And I do think this is a game that as you play it, it gets easier. You understand like how tough the enemy is, how easy you can die. I do suggest for you to be able to experience this game, play it on easy.
Oh,
because we only have a time limit. Like, this game, like, even on normal, if you make a mistake, will punish you early on. Like, I died a couple times in the early game unexpectedly, and I was like, oh man, I can't play quite this way. Like you said, you want to go in guns blazing and kill everything? Let's turn it down. And I'm not judging people who play games on easy or hard, because some games, it's if you want to experience stuff that more that happens. I played games on easy. I have, because I want to experience what the game has to offer. No judgment here. I just want you to experience as much as possible and not Dark Souls yourself into a corner.
There's part of me that wants to listen to you and part of me that really doesn't want to listen to you. So we'll see how that goes when I start it up.
Oh my goodness. You can make your choice, pick whatever you want in the end. I only suggest that because I want you to be able to experience more of this game.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense, to be able to experience the most. Being able to move forward at a reasonable pace is better than, like you said, knocking myself into a corner and doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, how do I put it? This game was really what cemented Far Cry as a first-person shooter experience that you should play, right?
Okay.
COD does it a little bit better, but they've been making this first-person shooter feel good for how long, right? They have the right feel. This one feels good, but it's not quite as polished as COD was at the time. I think Far Cry 4 and 5 really get into the vibe of that gunplay a little better.
Okay.
It's so hard to explain the nuances and differences between first-person shooter. It's like playing Battlefield and Call of Duty. Completely different feel. They're both first-person shooters. You play Halo, and
Halo feels really different than
right.
Like COD.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good example. Yeah. They're both first-person shooters. Feel completely different.
Oh, okay. So it'll be interesting to see how this feels then.
Yeah. My whole goal when I play these games is you can get a bow and arrow, which is like a perfect silent weapon, right? And I love that. And I always like to get that because, hey, guess what? Take this guy out. You don't hear crap. Take this guy out. They don't hear crap. And then I just go grab my arrows and move on with my day. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you think about it.
Yeah, I am too.
You know, it's like I said, every time you play one of these games, especially these games I remember fondly and I've played a lot in the past, I watch you play it and then these memories come back of like, you know what? That's how I felt. I remember feeling like this. Like, it's like I'm seeing the world fresh through your eyes again.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's like some sick kind of drug for you.
Yeah, feed me.
Feed me your first time experiences.
So on a scale, how are you feeling going into this?
I'd say about a 7. Like, I'm pretty interested in it. I'm a little bit wary because, like I said, I'm hoping that it hits right. But I'm going to try to go into it with a positive attitude. Like, it is going to hit right. It's going to be so cool.
Sometimes you just got to be patient with games, which is frustrating because I love a game that hooks you right away. But sometimes the games that hook you the hardest are the ones that are that slow burn until they get their their nails in you.
You can't ever tell. Like, you can explain it to me, you can tell me, but until you get in there and hold that controller and start up, you never know how exactly you're going to feel about it.
Well, all right, let's end this half, get to it.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys in a little bit. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome back. We had some time in the luscious jungle forests of Far Cry 3.
Oh, it's not as nice as Mexico, I tell you what.
Yeah, it ain't a super nice place to stay, I tell you what.
It's not.
But we're ready to hear your opinions, how you felt, what you liked, what you hated, all that good stuff.
So I chose to try I think survivor mode. There's adventure, which is easier. Survivor, warrior, and master. Master is described as worse than malaria. So I knew that was not for me.
A good nod to Far Cry 2, I believe.
Sure. I wanted to try survivor. I thought, I'm a seasoned gamer now. This won't be too hard. You described it as kind of first person shooter. I should be able to handle this. So when the game starts out, you get this big, like, long movie of this guy and his friends partying on an island. They're doing all these fun things, jumping out of an airplane and everything. Everybody gets kidnapped by pirates.
Yep. That's how the game starts.
Yeah. You're trapped and you escape with your brother, who gets killed like right at the exit of this camp of these pirates.
Mm-hmm.
And the bad guy, the antagonist, tells you he's going to give you a 30-second head start to just start running into the jungle. So as you go, the game teaches you how to run and jump. So it's trying to let you play and give you a tutorial on how to play, but it's really basic things like just running and jumping for quite a while. Like this part of running through the forest in the beginning actually takes quite a while. It does teach you how to sneak a little bit when you're sneaking through the camp with your brother.
Yeah. Yep.
But at this point, I was just getting hardcore Tomb Raider vibes. Like, this is so similar to the beginning of that game that you made me play.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, one of the things that I had a hard time with this game about was I wasn't a huge fan of the language used in it at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
It seems a little excessive and a little unnecessary, especially as a woman. Some of these things that they say, you definitely get the feeling this is not geared toward females in any way, shape, or form. Like, there was no consideration for girl gamers in the making of this game.
No, and it's, how do I put it? I don't think things would necessarily fly as well. I also think that they did that intentionally to make these pirates seem like exceptionally bad people, right? They are not good people. So I think it's supposed to make you feel like, okay, it's okay that I'm running around, stabbing them, shooting them, because they're just bad people and they do bad things to other people. It's karma, right? I feel like that was an intentional choice because you see it in movies and comics and stuff sometimes, especially adult comics that'll use that kind of language where they really just eke out like the most disgusting personality that they can for these enemies. And then you don't feel bad about them getting their arms broken or whatever bad happens to them, right?
I guess to me, it's just kind of excessive. Like, I think you can create a villain that seems rotten to the core without some of these kind of phrases in there. Like, it really tries to hit that one level of, see, they're bad, just by being like really disgusting. And there's other ways to be really disgusting besides, you know, some of the things that go on in this game.
I do think that in future Far Cry's going from this point, they do try to play into that where it's not just this insane bad guy full of like a bunch of disgusting people that are just human traffickers. It's more charismatic, like they're ruling, they're doing bad things for their own reasons. I believe in Far Cry 5, it takes place essentially in some small town America, and it's a cult leader, but he's like a religious leader who's like, oh, this is the right way to go, this is what you have to do, and he's doing all these bad things behind the scenes. But most of your interactions with him are like, he's just in power and people listen to him and he's used to it, you know? So
it's nice to see that eventually they get a more dynamic character there, because that's really what's missing in this one. There's not a lot of dynamic there.
No, they're just bad people for the sake of being bad.
And if you're not going to have a lot of dynamic there, maybe you don't need to go so far with some of the... Like, I don't mind swearing and things at all.
Not the bad part.
My mouth is not a pristine one by any means, but some of this stuff like shocked me. I was like, what the hell? You know, it's definitely not a game to play around kids.
Yeah, very derogatory.
Yeah. I would say it was kind of funny playing this, especially after playing Brutal Legends, which it's a totally different style of game.
Yeah.
But the motions of the people in this world are a little jerky and repetitive. There's a lot of dialogue scenes where they're just kind of doing the same motions over and over. There's not much for facial expressions. And the scenery is like really beautiful and very full. There's a lot of plants and you see animals roaming around. But it's kind of funny to me how you can see like wrinkles on a person's face, but there's no facial expressions there. They did this weird thing where, and I don't know if it's just the time it was made, they tried to make it ultra realistic, but they didn't get there in a lot of ways. It's interesting to see. I don't know. Maybe it's just the time period, right?
Yeah, you're talking about the Uncanny Valley, right?
Yeah.
Even though they look so real,
they still look so fake because of it.
Yeah,
it's
like
so
if you took a
weird.
picture, it'd look great, but in motion, it looks bad.
Yeah,
And this was
yep.
a lot of early CG stuff was like that. And that's why I think Brutal Legend works better, because it is a little more stylized and kind of cartoony. The characters aren't hyper realistic.
So
but
it's funny how it seems better to your eyes.
Yep,
right?
yep. You can have a robot with a simple facial expression and it'll seem more human than an ultra realistic looking human whose face doesn't move quite right. It's more unsettling, I guess, is a way to put it. Yeah, it's just a time period thing.
There's kind of a dissonance there. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
So the first like mission I have to do where I go to a camp, I had to attack some pirates. The game's trying to show you tutorials, but you're in the moment, and pressing a button to read a tutorial at certain times is really inconvenient to learn how to play the game. So it's funny how I like to learn while playing, but in this game, it doesn't give you like any grace while you're learning that first time. You're still getting your butt kicked while you're trying to like read the tutorials, and they keep popping up. So like I'm getting attacked by a dog and getting ripped to shreds, and it's like, learn how to crouch, and it's like, not right now. And learn how to craft. I'm like, I don't care right now. I'm getting shot. Komodo dragons came up out of the blue and just started swarming me and kicked my ass.
They're scary in this game.
They make the craziest noises in this game.
Komodo dragons just make crazy noises.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what they sound like in real life.
They're
it's probably like that.
Really scary creatures, honestly.
Yeah, it did kind of hit home where I was like, wow, Komodo dragons are scary.
Yeah.
They're huge. And
not to go too far off topic, their mouth is literally filled with like all sorts of bacteria.
Yeah,
and when they bite it, that's what like
you
part
just
of
rot,
what.
right?
Yeah, it just kills them because of how dirty their mouths are. I want to say this about the tutorials when they do pop up.
Yeah.
You usually get a little video showing what they're talking about as well. So like when you were
in the beginning, it seemed like they would give you a short little video so you could watch like how you use what they're trying to tell you. I did like that. And they weren't long-winded. They were pretty to the point. It's funny. It's like I said, it's doing the thing that I really like most of the time. It's just doing it kind of in a bad way. The game isn't stopping while you're reading it necessarily, and it's popping up on your screen when a lot of things are happening. Mm-hmm. And it's like inconvenient at the time. Like I said, if you are in the middle of a heated situation, it's like, not right now, please. Unless you freeze everything and I stop getting shot, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
But overall, the controls are pretty intuitive. It plays like a first-person shooter. So, I mean, if you play Call of Duty, that is what this feels like when you're shooting. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of... It's wild. You run around and there's a lot of different animals on this island. As you run around, there's pirates all over the place. You can run into them all the time. There's a lot of cool vehicles you can drive. There's a lot of different vehicles you can drive.
There's a ton in this game.
So,
a ton.
It was funny when I hopped into one. I was like, okay, this should be easy. The steering on this... What is with this game and the steering? Like, I did eventually kind of get the hang of it. Yeah. But at first, like... You barely touch that joystick and you are crashing to the left or right. It's wild. It's so funny how difficult they made it. And I don't know why. Like, why did they make it so hard?
It really is a learning curve.
Yeah.
I remember the original Far Cry's, this first person driving. I don't know why it feels so off. And I don't know if it's part of the engine they use or like just how they ended up programming it in. Because they didn't. You get used to like racing games or even like Grand Theft Auto. You're driving around. You kind of have a vibe for it pretty quickly. This one takes a little more work. It's
like they're trying to fuck with you on purpose, and I don't know why.
The first time I saw her get into a car, she's driving around, crashing into everything. She freaking drives the vehicle up on a house. It's all busted. She gets out and she just starts walking away. I was like, no, you look at what you did. You turn around and look at what you did. And then there's just this car up the side of a building, and she just tried to like, nope, I didn't do that, and walk away.
I flipped a Jeep upside down in rocks on a shore. Yep. I did a lot of crashing.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of fun to just like go full bore. You just crash into these pirates if they're on the road and just keep driving. They can't kill you then if you just keep going. So there's cars, there's Jeeps, there's hang gliders, there's jet skis, there's boats, there's four-wheelers. There's all these different vehicles you can drive. It's really fun to like jump on a hang glider.
I love the hang glider.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's a fun way to get around.
I did appreciate that. Exploring the map is pretty fun because, like I said, it is really full. There's a lot of plant life. Mm-hmm. And this was so stupid because at first there was a lot of animals everywhere. And then when I wanted to start crafting and needed to find animals, then I couldn't find an animal to save my life. Even though on the map it'll show you like where they're congregating at the time, you go there and it's still really hard to find them.
It is.
You showed me the scent tracker.
That helps a lot.
But it still didn't find any animals, and I was in the area they were supposed to be. Like, it never worked for me. I got really frustrated with the crafting right away because you can't find the shit to craft with. Mm-hmm. And that's... I mean, I don't want to sink in like 3 hours trying to get a couple boars. You know what I mean? And a couple deer, and just to get some basic level supplies.
And I think this is just the difference in the amount of time we have to play and experience the game, and like
no, I mean, really, who wants to spend that much time just to get that small upgrade? It's not a big upgrade. It helps, but it's not that great. Like, that's a lot of time to sink into getting a very minimal achievement. You know what I mean?
You're talking to a guy that likes to do that kind of thing, like go out and explore and get all that stuff I need and then start upgrading it. Like, I remember when I played this game originally, I did put a lot of time into focusing on getting the animals, getting all the upgrades.
But didn't you feel like it was excessively time consuming in this one compared to other games?
I think I just got better at it. I learned that even though animals might appear in certain areas, I also learned that they appear in the map is pretty big. There's other areas they will appear in that it's easier to find more of them. Like this early in the game, it's pretty sparse. And I think my biggest problem with this, and this is what you're talking about, like you're doing a mission, you're seeing animals run all over the place. And it's like, what the heck? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this now? When you're in a mission, a lot of times there's like specific, what's the word? Like action sequences that'll happen. Sure. Or like, the game's director's like, okay, there's animals here that'll cause
scenery.
This. Yeah, right? Whatever, amp up how the scene plays out. And then when you go back, they're not there. Yeah. You're like, what the hell? I'm roaming around and they're not here now. And I think I remember feeling like, okay, that's annoying. Like, really, why are you tempting me with all the boars I need, right, running by? Yeah. I can't, I have to focus on these pirates right now because they're killing me.
Yeah.
Stuff like that I remember being a little annoying, but I also just enjoyed running around and collecting all the pelts, because if I didn't need them anymore, I could sell them. And I always was finding little secrets, little loot stashes and stuff like that.
There's a lot to explore. There's a lot of loot boxes everywhere. There's radio towers that you need to find so that you get pieces of your map shown to you.
Yeah, which makes it a lot easier.
It makes it a lot easier. The only thing I can say about that is it's nice that the map will show you where every loot box is and every little thing. But at the same time, it kind of takes the fun out of it a little bit, because you can literally just go boom, boom, boom and grab them. You don't have to work very hard to find those. It's weird what this game makes you work for and what it doesn't make you work for.
I think
to me, there's a weird thing. I know, it's just funny. Maybe it's because it's different than others that I've played before.
Yeah.
To me, I expect to have to look for those things.
Yeah.
And then this one's like, here you go. It's handed right to you. Go get it. And then it's like, well, that's not as fun. It's not very challenging. And I don't know. The thing that I can compare it to is the closest thing that comes to mind is Monster Hunter. It shows on those maps as well, where different plant life is, different bugs, things that you need.
As you discovered them.
As you discover it. Exactly. Yeah. So if you walk through the area and you see it and collect it, then it shows up on your map. So in the future, if you ever need that stuff, you know exactly where to go. And I kind of like the way that works a little better than just being handed everything right away. Because then you don't really you don't get to explore because you want to. You know what I mean? Kind of takes the fun out of exploring because it's already all there. You know what's there.
I guess with my own personal opinion, or not maybe. Oh my gosh, cat. Our cat's going wild. How I view it is a lot of times those loot boxes, it's just money. It's just items you sell for money. So they're not making you work extra hard for just getting some money. And then the other thing is, like, when it comes to the animals, you know where they are, but you still have to search for them, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes to crafting and upgrading yourself, that you have to work for a little bit. Just like Monster Hunter, all that stuff is crafting stuff, right? You have to work for that a little bit. So I think that's just how they balance it out. Like, I'm not going to make you work extra hard and take way extra time to find a few extra bucks. But to get that upgrade,
maybe they could put some good things in the loot box. Like
yeah, maybe.
Ammo. There is a real lack of ammo in this game.
That I watching you play, I did remember that. Oh my gosh! Like,
I'm always out of ammo. Like, I will buy it, and 2 seconds later, it's all gone. They don't let you carry very much, but you need to make a bigger ammo bag. But you can't find the freaking animals to make the ammo bag bigger.
It wasn't until like mid game that I ever felt like, okay, I have enough ammo. But then again, I also used the bow and arrow a lot in the beginning because then I could just recover my arrows.
Well, I was playing on my own. You weren't around, and I made the dumb decision to buy an MP5.
Another machine gun.
Well, I like MP5.
Yeah.
And I did like the gun, but I realized really quickly that a sniper rifle or a bow would have been a much better choice. Literally, my next mission is a sneak one where I can't alert the enemy. Luckily, you can throw rocks to kind of lure guys in a direction that you want to go, and then you can sneak up and do a takedown with your knife.
I love the takedown.
So I will say that was kind of fun because it felt like I was playing Hitman again, trying to be sneaky.
Yeah.
And then luring them with the rock like you do with the coin in Hitman.
I love the coin.
The thing that this game did really, really well, and I appreciated so much, was the takedown. When you're sneaking up behind somebody, you can hit that takedown when you're still pretty far away from them. You don't have to get right up behind them, and you just leap forward, grab them, and just they're dead. I loved that. Like, they really gave you a lot of grace there.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier because it's hard in every game when you have to be right up next to somebody to take them out.
Uh-huh.
And I did appreciate that a lot. So I took it slow. It took a couple tries, but I did get through that just by using the takedown and being sneaky for a while, which was also kind of stupid because on this mission, you do that. You clear everybody out, and then an alarm goes off anyway, and a bunch of people show up, and you got to shoot them. So it's like, why did I have to be sneaky this whole time, game? You're just ridiculous.
Because they want you to experience both the high intensity action and the high tension stealth mission.
Well, I enjoyed the sneaking a lot. Mm-hmm. The first person shooting is decent, but if you play Call of Duty, it's not as good as, right?
No, Call of Duty has good feel, right?
Well, yeah, this isn't as smooth.
Yeah.
And it's not as quick reactions. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a good Call of Duty player by any means, but even I'm like, oh my gosh, this is kind of slow. This is kind of like, it's a little harder because it's not as quick. It's so hard to reload. It takes forever. It's hard to switch your guns. It's wild. It's, and I will say too, the controls are pretty similar, but there's a few things where it's like, I can't find how to do this or that if you forget. And I kind of jump back and forth between a few games these last 2 weeks too. That's when
it makes it hard.
And when I do that, especially if you switch consoles too, if you play Nintendo for a day and then go back to Xbox and the A and B are different,
Yep.
So some of that I'm going to blame on me, but I do feel, it seems like you agree, like it's not quite as smooth as that. They could have polished that up a little bit more.
The X is in 3 different places between PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. It's like, I think I'm at a point where I generally know what I'm going for it. Because a lot of times you just get used to how a game's supposed to feel. Like,
right.
People start using similar control schemes because this is what people like and it feels good. They're always trying to make sure the control scheme feels good. They start to get a little similar sometimes, but there's always one button that's off that throws you off all the time. Yeah, that's the curse of a multi-console gamer right there.
And we don't even have a PlayStation to really mix me up. Then I'd really get lost.
I just have the controller for my PC.
Every time I touch one of those controllers, my brain melts a little. I'm like, I don't know where any button is.
Yeah. Shapes, what's this?
Yeah, that's usually like,
what else you got?
Gosh.
Anything else you felt was important to talk about?
Well, I would say overall, Like, there's a lot of good elements to this game.
Mm-hmm.
I did not love it by any means, but I can see why you would really enjoy it. I could see why a lot of people would like it, because there is a lot of different dynamics to it.
Mm-hmm.
You get the first person shooter aspect of it. It's a little bit like Hitman sometimes, with trying to be sneaky and working around these pirates and luring them and things like that. But, in that respect, you're really limited. You only have like the rock you can throw, and you do have the takedown move, but you can't use your environment around you as much like you can in Hitman. Like we were saying, for the first person shooter aspect of it, it's fun, but it's not as smooth, and it could have been better.
Yeah.
And then there's times where it kind of reminded me of like Tomb Raider, with the landscape and the loot boxes everywhere, the radio towers that you have to activate. And like, I think that part's mostly fine, but it's, like I said, it's hard to find animals. It's like it has all these good things about it, but it's just not quite hitting on all three of them really, really well. And it almost seems like it's a little overwhelming, because you could just spend days crafting things. You could just spend days doing missions. You could just you could just spend time going and finding radio towers.
Yep, I did all those things.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot to do. It's a really full game. I mean, you could just spend a lot of time running around driving jet skis and using the hang gliders.
Yep.
It's cool in that way, but it doesn't feel quite as polished as it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's a little underbaked, and maybe they should have worked on it a little bit longer, or maybe they just are doing too much in this game and they couldn't get everything quite as perfect as what they should have.
I mean, it was really, I know it says it's Far Cry 3, but they took some elements of the original Far Cry, and then they really added all these new things into it, and they set the base for the games going forward on the franchise, right? This is the game that made the franchise really big. So I think if there's somebody, if this sounds interesting to you, or you might like it, like, okay, Far Cry 3 you can probably pick up for really cheap on a sale. But nowadays, I think Far Cry 5 is on Xbox Game Pass right now. Free. If you have that, give it a try. 4 and 5 are pretty good. I think a lot of times the reason they didn't get as high critically rated is because it's like, it's the same formula now. Like, it doesn't feel that different. But if you haven't played these games, it'll still feel pretty good to you. And then they've made improvements. They polished it. I heard Far Cry 6 was pretty good. I haven't touched that yet. I haven't come around to it. And that's, just time. I don't have the time for that.
I think a lot of different kind of gamers could really like this game. I think it has a lot to offer. I don't think it's terrible by any means. It's kind of funny, because when I think about it, I'm like, I don't personally like it, but I like a lot of things about it. There's times when I had fun playing, and then there's times when I was like, oh my God, this is so boring. Please stop. There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of cutscenes that are just, they're so boring, you guys, to me. But that's me. Some people like that stuff, but like, I don't know. It's not like Brutal Legend. I enjoyed those. This one, I'm like, oh, stop. I don't care. Just let me go do something.
Yeah.
It's, and I think everybody's like that. They're going to have certain types of things that they're more interested in. This just wasn't mine. But I do think a lot of people would like it, especially if you're a younger male, because that's totally the demographic that they're going for.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was when I played it.
If you're a woman and you want to play this, like, put on your big girl pants and try not to let it make you too angry at certain points.
Funny. It's interesting to see how much this game probably influenced even other Ubisoft games after the fact.
Yeah.
There was one I played with my brothers called Ghost Recon Wildlands. And you're an agent, you're undercover in hostile territory. You're supposed to kind of take down this regime, essentially.
Okay.
But it's made to be co-op for up to 4 people to be running around in this world. I believe that one was that one third person? I think you could switch between third person and first person in that one. But you could take down like little fortresses like you did in Far Cry 3, where like you clear it out and then you own it, or you can fast travel
your
there.
Camp now.
So it was fun to see that, you would unlock weapons by doing this. You could sneak in, you could mark all the targets. It was a really cool idea that you could mark targets and number them And be like, hey, I'm going to shoot 1, you shoot 2, you shoot 3, like snipe. 4
That's
people
cool
go down.
For a co-op
like,
game.
Yeah,
That's really
that
cool.
was really fun. You could even, like, in the game, there's a, like, oh, click this button and it'll count down. Everybody, you know.
See, that's what I mean. Like, there's some good elements in this, and I can see how it transferred to that game.
Yep.
You can mark targets in this game, too, with your camera, and that is
super
helpful.
nice.
Yeah, that is helpful. Boy, this last mission I tried to do, though, like, yeah, you can mark your targets, but when there's 5 million of them, like, I don't know how you're supposed to... There's points in this game where you're like, I'm not really sure how you're supposed to accomplish this with the equipment that you give me. Because, like I said, there's not a... I don't know if I just don't know how to play it, because it's like, am I supposed to sneak around here? Because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do, but at the same time, like, you can't stash bodies or anything. And if another pirate finds a dead body, then they're alarmed and they're looking for you and you're trying to be stealthy and it just doesn't work. I keep getting just the alarms going off. I'm getting shot up. And when you have that many just against you, it's where do you take cover? Like they surround you so quickly.
Yeah.
And you're getting like grenades thrown at you. And this is like, we all know how crazy Call of Duty can get, right? But when things are happening, you don't necessarily get stunned or shocked for so long that you can't react. And I think that's what the difference is in this one. You're getting shot and you're trying to reload. And I don't care how many times I press that X button. It just doesn't register because it's like, nope, you're getting shot. Nope, you're getting and you can't run away to get away from them far enough to reload. And you, gosh, there's no ammo and you don't carry hardly any. It makes me insane. You know, and if you're getting shot at, you can't jump forward and do the takedown. Like it's just a little harder. And it's, you know, I think if I really stuck to it and tried, I'd get better at it. But I don't have the drive to, because it just, you know, I think I'd give this game like a 6.5 for me personally. Okay. I think other people would enjoy it more.
I do think it is learning how to play this game and how you specifically want to play this game and getting the loadout you need to make that happen.
Yeah,
right?
I made some bad choices. I'm going to be, you know, upfront about that. I did not need an assault rifle and a machine gun.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was a bad go.
It is really learning. Like, if you picked up a shotgun instead, then you would have had something to really get in close. Boom, 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 right? You know, like that could have helped. Or, like you said, a bow and arrow or a sniper, and you could have been far away picking them off. And then when they got close, pull out the assault rifle.
Yeah, that was it's all my fault,
really
everybody.
Learning how the game plays. And I said this before, too, because when I picked it up to play it again, you know, to remind myself, I was like, oh, man, yeah, this game is pretty unforgiving health-wise. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, as long as you can find them green plants, you can keep crafting those heals. And that's good. That's a quick heal, right? But once you're out of those, like, it is very hard to keep from dying. Like, it is hard. They are rough. And that is the only reason I suggested playing on a lower difficulty, because even I like taking over the first base. I died once. I had to start over again. And it's like, I can't believe I died on the first base. But it happens.
It's hard when you're trying out a new game to know what difficulty to play on.
Yeah, it really is.
They're all so different. And some you're just going to click with better than others.
That's true, too.
It's kind of nice to just try it on the regular settings just to see how it feels. And you're right. I think I could do it on this normal mode. I think I just made a bad choice, and I could definitely run around, and I've got more money, and I could get a bow and arrow or get a sniper rifle and keep trying. I just don't like this game enough to keep putting the work in. I'm just going to be honest, you know? That's really what it comes down to.
So, we got a 6.5.
Yeah. Probably
not going to play it again.
I have no desire to play it again, but I do respect it. I do think that there was a lot of cool things about it. I don't think it's the worst game ever by any means. It just doesn't click with me.
I wonder if I should make you try Blood Dragon at some point. The crazy retro future punk 80s VHS version. I'll contemplate that. Is there anything else you had left you want to say about the game?
I think I covered everything for the most part.
Okay.
About what I want to say about it.
Well, I think we should head out. It's kind of interesting seeing things, you know, and reminding myself how I felt when I played it. Because I think, like you said, there's a lot of good things about this game, and it probably isn't for everybody. But I would suggest, if not this one, try another Far Cry after 3. after 3. Before 3, that's just for experiencing game history at that point.
Yeah.
After 3 is where they keep a certain level of quality.
Why can't you blindfold a Pokemon?
Just coming in hard with that, huh? Why can't you blindfold a Pokemon? What? Hit me. What is it?
No guesses?
No, I don't got a guess. Tell me.
It'll Pikachu.
Oh, my.
You're a dad. Doesn't that joke give you more power?
Yeah.
You're supposed to suck it up and inhale it like a demon. Yeah. More power.
My strength has increased tenfold.
You got a new dad joke.
Yeah. I want to thank Ray for our caricatures.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we got some new ones coming on the way, and I'm so excited to use them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for our music.
Well, thank you.
Intro and
thank
outro
you.
Music.
I just want to thank everybody for listening, and feel free to comment. We have our YouTube. We got on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. There's a question. If you have any suggestions for games you'd like to hear, or even just questions you want to ask, you throw it in there.
Sure.
Probably throw it in at the end here.
I know we did another bonus episode last week, and I know we've kind of inundated you between December being like, woo, we're going to do a lot. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
But last week's is really just a review of things that Matt's shown me that I really liked, and then looking forward to what he's excited to play this next year. And I think it was really fun. So if you want a condensed version of, all the weeks that we've been doing this, that's right? Kind of a good episode to listen to. If you haven't listened to every episode, you can see like what really hit and what didn't.
It's just a good, genuine conversation about video games, things to look forward to.
We get distracted by Pokemon a lot, but
Yeah, Zelda and Pokemon pop up a few times, but what do you do? I think.
So thank you for showing me this game, because I don't know, it was interesting to see. It was interesting to experience. I think I liked it better than Tomb Raider for sure.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. You did.
As much as it reminded me of that game, I was like, "Oh, this is Tomb Raider done right." Okay, this is the way it should have been.
Better version.
Yeah,
yeah. I like I said, I like to mix it in the games that I want to see you play and things I think you should experience. I mean, like Far Cry 3 is kind of a part of video game history at this point.
Sure.
And turning point for the franchise. So it's like that's kind of an important game you should try, and that's the kind of games you get. You ones play them comes just because they're super fun, or play them because they're kind of important to game
it's
in history.
Important to know.
Yeah, like Legend of Zelda: Link to a Past. Important point in the Zelda history,
sure.
Right?
Yeah, it is for sure.
All right, let's get the hell out of here.
Goodbye.
I'm
everybody.
Matt,
and I'm Rose,
and this has been Co-ople Mode. You keep gaming with your bestie. Ta-ta!